Hey y'all, it's Chinzy. So I'm here to talk about money, specifically my income across 2024. I'm gonna go in detail, month by month, line by line. I've got my spreadsheet right here. I made it actually a couple days ago. As I started my debt-free journey, I highly recommend this, especially as we come upon tax season. I'm gonna do the same thing for all of the ways I've been spending money on my business, right? Because the thing with these different streams of income is that they don't come without costs. Some of those costs are sunk costs, things like buying the camera, but other things are reoccurring. If you're interested in being a creator, growing as a creator, being a coach, growing a coaching business, I wanna just share these details. I think I'm gonna turn my face into a little circle so I can show myself on this spreadsheet. And let's go ahead and go line by line. So let's start with the 4 different streams of income. So we have consulting. So this is consulting. I consider it consulting if a company is paying for it. So I do coaching within the world of consulting. I do training within the world of consulting. I do market research. I consider all these things consulting because it's me giving the expertise I have to a company in a way that isn't in a 9-to-5 salaried position. And I currently have 5 different entities, companies that I have done different types of consulting for. My other stream of income is AdSense. So that's YouTube, that's making these videos. And those are the ads, of course, that run, the banner ads and the interstitials and all those different things that run with these videos. I've included in this money that I get from super chats back when I used to go live. Remember that? Let me know if you want me to bring that back. So yeah, if you ever given me super chats or things like that, or the videos themselves, you can, if you really like it, you can give me money as well. So anytime that's happened, I just included that into AdSense. And then we have coaching, right? So coaching is the creative coaching I do one-on-one for individuals. And I currently offer one-on-one 3-month coaching. And that program currently is around $3,500. And then I also offer one-on-one calls. So if you don't need an entire 3 months of support, you just wanna connect with me for 30 minutes, an hour, or 90 minutes, I offer those calls as well. If you're interested, it's all available on my Calendly. And then finally, we have Patreon. So Patreon is, I think of it as part of that YouTube world. I've done some different things to increase the people engaging with me on Patreon. I've tried things like, sending voice notes every day. I've tried things like hosting accountability calls. I've also tried, going live on YouTube and then having an exclusive call for my Patreon. So that's a space where I'm constantly experimenting with and trying to figure out how I can make sure I'm giving value. Though I do think for a lot of the folks, they just feel good supporting me, right? Normally it costs just $3 to join my Patreon. And then, folks have also given me up to $20 in Patreon as well. And then I also just have individual people just give me money. Sometimes people are just like, hey girl, what's your PayPal? I just wanna give you money, right? And so for instances like that, I have noted that here. So I had one person do that, but they actually became a coaching client. And so I lumped that into coaching as well. But I've had people who are just like, hey, here's some money. And I'm like, thank you very much. I also have, we're in the month of November as I'm recording this. I have some numbers here for December that are projected based either on work I've already done, so invoices that will be paid. The coaching and the Patreon though, those numbers are tentative, right? So I expect that, it's a projection. I'm 80 to 90% sure that that's gonna come through, so I decided to put it. I suspect that I'll also get more one-off, one-on-one calls with people, and so I do think that coaching number will actually increase. But because I can't guarantee that, I'm not including that in my projection. And now let's talk about these numbers, right? So if we were to include everything for the entire year, including the projections for December, we'd be at around $43,084.50. We love a cent. Now this is about how much maybe a school teacher gets paid, right? I was watching this interview with Daniel Priestley, and he talks about how, there's this middle kind of ground where you've left maybe your 9-to-5, but you aren't at that millionaire 10K a month state in your business. And you're basically having all of the work that comes with having a 9-to-5, if not more, because you're running your own business, but you're not actually getting the cash flow. So you're assuming all the risk and basically none of the reward because your actual pay isn't that high. But of course, the trade-off is that I get to wake up in the morning when I want and swim in my pool, and I get to work with people one-on-one, and I get to do all this consulting for all these cool companies, and I get to travel and live in Mexico and do all these things, right? So it's definitely trade-offs. One thing that's not on this list is sponsorships. I've gotten some things in kind, but I'm not including it here just because it's not really quantifiable in that same way. But I do have an intention to actively reach out for sponsors in the next year. One of the belief systems I had was that my channel was too small. Even though I've had sponsors in the past, they were all inbound. I didn't really do any outreach for them. I'm really excited to see what can happen in this next year when I'm intentionally bringing people in. So let's start with consulting. So as you see, in the month of January, I made about $6,100, and that was all from one company. I didn't make anything from any other companies. And I think that's the thing with consulting is that, you know, it's not a regular gig, right? So there's a little bit of that variance when it comes month to month. I didn't make anything from AdSense. So with AdSense, you actually have to hit $100 in order to have Google actually pay out your money. And so there were months where I had videos that were really viral and I got the check that month, and it's kind of spilled over to the next month. And other months where, you know, the views weren't popping like that. And so I didn't get that kind of income. For coaching, I had $321. And then for Patreon, I had about $71. I have to say Patreon is one of the more steady sources of income where every single month there's that money coming from Patreon. So if you're a creator, even if you're still small, I would say just start a Patreon. You never know who wants to support you, right? It's just a way to open that portal to receive money. In February, I got a lot less from that one consulting opportunity, but I had a lot more instances of coaching, even though the actual amount was about $465. And then I had the AdSense come through that month, which brought me to about $2,200. March, similarly, you know, we still had some consulting opportunities. We had a research opportunity, which was cool. We had about 323 coming from coaching, and we had a real dip in Patreon. So this was actually the least I ever got for the entire year in Patreon. I think I was really not giving y'all no love over on the Patreon. What I often will notice is that it'll take something dipping for me to be like, oh wait, that needs my attention. It's the same thing with YouTube, where I saw my views starting to dip pretty consistently, and I wasn't uploading shorts. I was only uploading videos, you know, once a week, you know, sometimes taking long breaks. And I was like, all right, that's showing me that my energy hasn't been there. And I was like, all right, I want to see those numbers go up. I know what to do. It's sort of just pour more energy in that direction. So here we are making all these videos, right? April, we signed a full-time client. They paid in full. We love to see it. And so that accounted for a nice chunk of change. We didn't get any consulting opportunities in April. And then with the Patreon and AdSense, that brought us to $3,900. In May, we got a few consulting opportunities. AdSense continued to flow. Coaching continued to flow. Patreon continued to flow. And we got around $700. June is when we started to see things pick up again, right? So we brought on another coaching client, additional coaching opportunities. There was some consulting that happened in June. Patreon continued to flow, and that brought us to around $3,000. July, we started to have more consulting opportunities. AdSense, we had a video that did really well that month, so the AdSense was a little bit bigger than normal. Patreon continued to flow. I think this was around the time I introduced the accountability calls, which brought people in, and I think I maybe went live or something too around that time. August, so the consulting kind of became more consistent. Coaching continued on. Patreon continued on, and we're at around $3,300. September, so this is when we introduced a new consulting client, which was really exciting, which brought a lot more money consistently. Other consulting opportunities continued at a consistent pace, and we continued to have the Patreon. No big coaching income around that time, so we were at around $1,800. And in October is when we really started to see like the benefit of all the consulting paying off, right? So a lot more consulting money coming in. We had, how much? We had around $3,300, almost $3,400 just from consulting this month in October. Brought in, you know, more coaching revenue as well as the Patreon. We had the AdSense that had been built up from not being paid out. That was paid out as well. So we were at $4,100 for October. And then we just actually finished our biggest month this month of November. We had over 5,000, it was 5,300, you know, or so just from consulting. And we had more clients coming in and clients extending their time with me. That brought in around $2,100. And then of course, Patreon continued as well. That's around 7,500. And then I'm on track in December to, continue having consulting opportunities that total around 4,500. This is projected for coaching totaling around 1,800, though I actually think that number is going to go up. And then Patreon is scheduled to continue as well, which would bring me to around 6,400. There's definitely this ebb and flow, but especially towards the end of the year, I'm seeing this nice increase. And my expectation is that that's going to continue into the new year, into January, February. I think a lot of folks are going to have New Year's resolutions around their creativity, and they're going to be looking and wanting support. And so they'll be reaching out. I'll also be, uploading all these videos in this 30-day period, which I think will further generate leads and things like that. And I am going to be really intentional about starting that outreach for sponsors in the new year. Let me know if that was helpful. Let me know if there was anything that was really surprising for you. Let me know if you have any questions around sort of how I gain those opportunities or how I kind of think about my coaching business. As you see, it's been really lucrative. For the entire year in coaching, compared to AdSense, for instance. That's part of why I thought about how do I have my own business. I actually had someone reach out asking like, hey, would you consider doing some kind of program, some kind of course about how to be a coach? So if you're interested in that, just let me know in the comments. I think what I'll do is maybe make a YouTube video where I'll outline some of the things involved. And then if folks are really interested, I'll do like a longer live training or build out a course or do something. So we'll figure that out if there is interest. All right, thank you for hanging out with me. Thank you for being nosy and seeing what's going on in my wallet and my bank account. I hope you learned something. I hope you loved it. And I'll see you in the next video. Bye. Oh my gosh, all this construction. Bye, y'all.